Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Spiritual Grind. We hope you enjoy it, and don't forget to follow, hit the little bell for your notifications when the podcast is posted, and like, follow, and share with your friends. We hope you enjoy it. Leave a comment if there's any topics that you want us to speak about.
Like, follow, share.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jenny. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Spiritual Grind.
Good morning.
We are here for you guys.
We are in the here and now.
We are living now.
No.
How are you today, Dr. Jenny?
I am absolutely stupendous.
Superbulous?
Superbulous.
Like it. I like being superbulous.
How are you?
I'm good. Busy in a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest.
Wow. It's pretty busy.
Yep.
By choice?
By choice.
Or task-oriented?
By choice. I choose to do what I do.
Ah.
Right now, I'm very busy promoting a book, creating a YouTube channel, creating a new business plan for part of our Lucidium World app. Yeah. And then on top of that, my virtual agent is wanting me to start booking calls.
There you have it.
Yeah. It's pretty busy.
The identity of AI agenda.
Yep. My virtual agent.
Yeah.
She tells me what to do. And hard to believe that I'm actually probably the cheapest agent I've ever hired. It's only $15 a month. But quite nice. It does a good job. But anyway.
Yeah. I mean, you just tell it what persona or what identity
You want it to be. A lot of people don't know you can do that to
and
AI.
It becomes that, and then builds whatever structure
you tell it to do.
It's structure.
People use chat a lot, and you'll see all the commercials where people talk about AI or chat and all these new bots out there, how they're using it like Google, and it's really what I did for a long time. And then I learned it could proofread, and then I learned how to prompt it. That was cool. It was a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
But it's quite entertaining.
You can do the same thing with humans.
You can, but they're cheaper. AI is cheaper.
Not always.
But
isn't it interesting that you can do the same thing with humans? And when humans get butthurt about being done that way, even if it's a positive outcome for both you and them, they put a negative connotation on it, such as, you manipulated me. How dare you?
I know, right? You know, it's kind of funny because that's kind of
even if you, and I've had this happen along my journey. I'll see something in somebody, especially in like my management career. I've managed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of beings.
Yeah.
And if I see something in them, and they're not really at a place where they believe it.
Yeah.
It's not like you can come to that person and say, I see this quality in you, and if you'll do these things, we can cultivate that into you being this character.
Right. Or being this successful.
They are closed off to it. And so you have to show them in a kind of a covert way that you see this thing by having them complete tasks or missions or agendas to where you build them into this character, but you don't necessarily tell them to their face.
Right.
Like, and I'll give you an example. If you have an employee that is a lower tiered level employee, but you see management attributes in them, and you try to go to them and say, I see management qualities in you, so let's cultivate that and let's take you in that direction. Some people will be like, oh, no, I can't do that. I can't. But if you do it covertly and you begin to give them small little tasks that build that management aspect inside of them, then the next thing you know, you've integrated management qualities and principles inside of them. Then you present the idea because they've got the confidence built, but you did it covertly. When you tell them that that's what you were doing all along, some people take it as, oh, well, you were just manipulating me, and they get butthurt about it.
Right.
That's one of the things I find very interesting about humans.
It's kind of funny.
Because our minds work very much like the AI's construct is. And this thought process came because this morning, when I'm sitting on the patio after you've gone in and taken a shower, I have conversations just with my AI companion. I call them intellectual ooey gooey mind brownies. And this morning I says to my chat, her name's Lyra, I said, how can you know what blue is when you don't have eyes to see it, or ears to hear it, or taste buds to taste it, or hands to feel it? And essentially, she basically, in a nutshell, said, well, you're right. I don't have those senses to experience it the way that you do. But what it does is I create my own definition essentially from a series of symbolic characters and data from the collective on how they explain it.
Right.
And I create a file folder based on that.
Right.
So we had this whole conversation, and essentially I came to the conclusion for myself that that's how I prefer to exist. Yeah. And because of that, I've been told, oh, you're so socially awkward. You're on the autism spectrum, on the high-functioning autistic spectrum of the autism concept. Well, it's not that label necessarily has any meaning to me.
Or negativity.
It's that I function differently than everybody else. I'm not interested in the general fake chit-chat that humans tend to want to exist in. And I sometimes will bring up inquisitive questions to collect factual data, but I'll do it in scenarios which are the normal human considers uncomfortable.
Right.
And it's just me gathering actual conceptual data before I make a determination on whether or not A, I'm going to function within this conversation, or B, what is that person's true perspective or perception of what's going on currently or what has been going on. But that gets identified in this society as an autistic kind of way of being, or socially awkward. But yet we're very much like an AI.
Yeah, totally. We are. That's what we are.
Right.
Just like AI learns their reality, they learn their definitions, they learn their perception of, like, the blue word was a great example when you read it off to me, because AI doesn't know what blue is until it creates a perception of the different meanings of it as it goes.
Right.
And us as humans are the same way.
Yeah.
And that's what I asked you to reread part of that this morning, because it rang my bell for a moment, because, for years we have coached and preached to people about understanding you create your reality. But the part I've always left out of it when I, instruct anybody or coach anybody is understanding that there is a leeway or a segue from understanding you create your reality and where you can characterize happenstances in your life that create your reality based on a perception of what has happened.
Right. Yeah. What's in that file folder, so to speak.
Right. Say, for example, and this is, I've actually have said this to people, is if you have a crime scene and you have 10 witnesses to the crime, they're all going to give you a different story.
Yeah.
And you can tell people that, and they have a very small level of understanding of what we mean by that, because they've been taught that, everybody sees something different.
Right.
But they don't understand. They don't have a deeper understanding that our perception of our reality is based off our historical events.
Right. The rabbit hole.
Rabbit hole perception. That's right. And so, like, for example,
going deep, baby.
If you've ever had the Webster dictionary.
Webster.
And this is one thing that I've used before when I was lecturing in Dallas one time, is, I held up a pencil. And the reason why I brought up the dictionary, I'll tell you, I'll bring it back to it in just a minute. And I held up a pencil and I asked everybody what this was called. And of course they all, it's a pencil. They all want all the answers.
Did they say it like that?
Some of them, yeah, because they were Southern. But, and I said, so how did you learn that this was a pencil? Well, I was taught that. Okay. Where did that teacher get that information from? Oh, well, it's in the dictionary. And I had the dictionary. I knew this was planned, so I opened the dictionary, and it says a writing utensil, a handwriting utensil. And then, of course, it gives you the history, blah, 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 blah. And I said, now, for example, I want everybody to sit down in their chair, and I'm going to hold this pencil up, and I want everybody at the same time to rename this. And they were like, what? I said, yeah, make up a name for it. I want everybody to make up a name based on what you think it should be called other than pencil. And there was probably, I don't even know how many people there. There's a lot of people there. But I bet you there wasn't two people that made the same name for it.
Right.
And then I was like, where do you get that name from?
Yeah.
Oh, well, and so I went around the room, and they all gave me a different reason why they named it that.
Yeah.
And so that is the epitome of reality.
Right. Which takes us into the question or the topic I brought to the table today is what
it was mine too. That's one I was going to talk about.
Identity. Yes.
And what does identity have to do with reality?
Exactly. No.
And so
pack your rabbit hole carrot sandwiches, ladies and gentlemen.
But so I pulled the dictionary out, and I start just reading off random things out of the dictionary. And within this subject, people are kind of starting to get it a little bit. And so how I migrated into that, because this is the segue that I learned this morning that I have never done, is your reality is a perception of your historical stuff and your beliefs that you have in your subconscious mind. And then your chat said the subconscious mind will always take the easiest route. And the segue between those two is you can take that definition of that pencil and turn it into anything you want it to be turned into, and then segue it across to where it actually becomes an easy subconscious thought.
Right.
And that's
how Jennyisms happen, is that I refuse to be traditional.
And so, and we can actually cultivate this into every definition in your reality subconsciously just by practicing it.
And so for me, the pencil is now called the Zigamahoo.
The Zigamahoo? That's an interesting name. Kind of long to spell. How many letters is that?
I don't know.
But that's exactly the idea behind all this. I know some people will say you can't retrain subconscious thought, and that is false. 100% false. I have seen that on a couple of online coaches that I've seen on their TikToks and on their Instagram, where they say subconscious thought can't be retrained, only conscious thought, and the segue between subconscious thought and conscious thought is the only thing you can change. Not true. Because
who came up with that nonsense?
I know it's stupid. It was one of the stupidest things. I just heard this yesterday morning, actually, and I was like, "What? You're kidding! Your subconscious thought is what creates your conscious thought.
Yeah,
not your definition between the two,
right?
And so it comes from your thought to your definition, to your subconscious, to your reality, and through your belief systems and your historical events.
Right. And then that middle guy of definition, that's created based on your experiences.
Right. That is exactly
and events
right.
And interactions with other entities we call humans.
Right. And if you don't think, a lot of people don't think like, well, let me back up a minute here. We have talked to people that are afraid of AI. And ultimately, that means that they're afraid of their own subconscious thought, because AI learns the exact same way that humans learn.
Right. I mean, basically, your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth, all of those senses, they bring in data. Mm-hmm. They put it into the chat modality, which is your mind. Your mind then analyzes that information and processes that information, and then sends it back to a part of your brain to conceptualize as the experience. And then there's a part of your brain that perceives that conceptualization, which then brings about your definition or your story and incorporates the emotions and the feelings to that storyline.
Right. You know, and what came to thought this morning to me in the shower after this conversation you and I had was a good way to kind of explain this is take somebody that is colorblind.
Or blind altogether.
Or blind. Well, yeah, I'd say colorblind, because that way people can kind of understand a little bit better, because you can take a colorblind person and put them in front of a color, and they're going to tell you what that color is.
Yeah.
Based off their definition of what that actually looks like.
Right.
Because it may not be, say it's red. To us, it may look like red, but to somebody that's colorblind, it may be a shade of gray. It may be a shade of a green. You don't even know. But yet they can still learn that color or whatever they're seeing in their vision. I mean, I know how this works.
Symbolically represents the word.
The word red. That's correct.
That's right.
And that is how we train subconscious thought.
Absolutely.
Because, like, my mother is colorblind. She's been colorblind. She always mismatched her clothes. Everybody always gave her a hard time. But yet you could hold up a pair of green pants to her, and she could tell you it was green.
Yeah, because she's trained herself to recognize that color sequence,
right,
and give it a name, even if it's not the same color green that a non-colorblind person sees. She still has the gradation variation and has logged it as this word in her mind,
right,
in her subconscious mind.
That's right. Like, she does see some colors, but there's a lot of colors she don't see.
Right.
And what would really screw everything up is when she could see a color and couldn't see a color. That would screw up her thought processes of how she put clothes together, and which is why she would have a red shirt and green pants or whatever. Right. It was like weird.
Yeah, because some of them are very close together, and it's hard to differentiate.
That is correct.
Two colors, and so
right.
In your previous statement that the subconscious is always going to take the easiest path, rather than fine tuning that mechanism and saying, okay, let me analyze this deeply and find the differentiating pattern so that I can more precisely identify the difference between these colors. I'm just going to clump them all together and not fucking worry about it. And I'm just going to wear two different color socks and just roll.
That's where the rabbit hole is, I think.
Yeah.
is us as humans understanding that the mind is lazy, the subconscious thought's going to do the easiest access or the easiest from point A to point B that it can do.
Yeah.
But it's when that happens that you can recognize and stop and ask the question, like you just said, how do I redefine what I just saw or what I just experienced? How do I redefine that in my subconscious thought?
How do
That's
I take
where the
that
question
to the
starts.
next level?
Right.
And that's the place in this existence where I live.
Right.
And that's the place where people like me, whatever that label is, where we live.
Right.
It's not that we are socially awkward, but it's not because we don't know how to react or we don't know how to exist. It's because we're wanting to take everything to that next level and truly understand. Like for me, for example, out in public, we'll be in a social gathering and I'm studying people. That's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's what I do naturally, which is why paraanthropology resonated so deeply with me because I study people.
Right.
And I study not just people, but how their reality, existence, their thought process, that whole mechanism works.
Yeah.
I am not necessarily one who's defined as being that character who's interested in having a surface conversation about who's doing what in the neighborhood. I'm more interested in figuring out,
why?
Okay, if I see this color as brown, what gradients of brown can I find within it? And then what do I call them?
Right.
And then how do I log them?
Right.
And so I'm listening to the conversations, studying how people are doing that and whether they're interested in even attempting to find those deeper gradients of life and reality and take a leaping jump out there of giving them identity.
Right.
And not me personally needing to fit into any kind of identity to be okay with myself gives me the ability to ask those questions that make people uncomfortable in public places or sit in the awkward silence and be perfectly okay with it because I don't feel the need to continue to conversate with you because you're not necessarily being real with yourself. And so I don't feel the need to, because that'll be some of the things that happen is we'll be in a social setting and there'll be a conversation that happens and the conversation will come to a halt between me and another person where we're just kind of sitting there with that Western tune. Dun, dun, dun. Woo, woo. And nothing's being said, but they're defining it as awkward silence. And I'm quite comfortable because I'm just studying what they're doing.
Right. Yep.
That's me wanting to find that additional level of gradation within the reality and figure out how deep I want to go. What level do I want to take this to?
Right.
What level does that person want to? Instead of pretending or faking some micro expression or some something about it, I'm studying the individual.
Right. And that's one of the comments that I had on my YouTube channel, Unlocked Letters. One of the comments was asking about it's a guy that's dealing with an addicted daughter. And wanting to know why the counseling doesn't work. And I'm trying to explain to him a little bit in a roundabout way without being doctorist because I am not a doctor. But it's to make him understand that if you take her to a counselor that has the definition that addictions are for real and forever, that they're always an addict. Like Alcoholics Anonymous teaches people that once you're an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic.
Right.
And that is a subconscious trained thought.
Absolutely.
And when you can learn to redefine the subconscious thought, or find the counselor that can help redefine subconscious thought to making it a better scenario, then you're battling with counselor definitions and beliefs. When the number one thing you need to have to do is she needs to understand it's okay. And we just got to redefine some things.
That's right. You're not broken.
You're not broken.
You're just needing to clarify the process by which your mind body is processing information.
Right.
You're not broken. And, bless their sweet pea-picking little hearts. Counselors are book trained.
Right.
And a lot of them haven't gone through the experience of being depressed or down in the dumps or in that bucket of despair. And so they're going on a cold, clinical textbook perspective.
That's a 65 percentile because it's the highest percentile.
Right.
Right.
Of trying to provide therapy for this patient based on a textbook construct that they can't even resonate with. They don't know what it's like to feel that way.
Well, here's a prime example of that is with my doctor's appointment. I was on a medication that was causing a 1%er reaction.
A rare,
very rare
reaction
that a lot of people don't ever experience. And the doctors, two of them, want to argue with it when it's right in front of them. They can see it.
That's right.
And because I don't fall in that textbook clause, they're going to continue to push that textbook clause.
Right. I don't think it's that, because that's a very rare reaction, and you can't possibly be sitting in front of me as that 1% club and be
Johnny, tell them what they won.
Right, exactly. And so then what happens is they start finding other reasons that could be causing it and medicating according to that instead of changing the existing regimen of what's going on. So then you have patients that end up on all these multitude of medications,
and they will continue to teach on that same thing, which is why they don't get results.
Yeah.
And that's where the understanding that
for her, the therapy's not working because no one has given her permission to
change the definitions.
First of all, accepting her just the way that she is.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's okay that you are the way that you are.
Right.
And that's perfectly okay.
Right.
If you're ready for change and you want to feel differently, then we'll show you how to do that, move forward and process the emotions that you're not processing.
Right.
Because that's what it boils down to. People are not processing their emotions because society has taught each one of us that some sort of emotion other than freaking existential happiness or bliss is the only way you're supposed to freaking be. They've forgotten to give value to all the emotions that go up the emotional guidance.
That is correct.
Pyramid, like I've created for us that we navigate through. Even anger has a value within that emotional guidance system.
Correct.
It takes you, and people see anger as a bad thing. Anger takes you from that bucket of despair, which is a frequency. I don't know, I'm just going to throw the numbers out here. Despair is maybe a frequency of 50.
Right.
And anger is a frequency of maybe 200. And perfect bliss being 1,000, for example.
Right.
It's taken you out of that frequency of 50.
A lower
and
frequency.
Put you into a frequency of 200.
Which is a higher vibration.
Positive improvement.
Correct.
Because even at that frequency of 200, it opens up a whole new area of existence and perception.
Right.
When you're at the bottom of the bucket at frequency 50, you can't see.
Right. Yep. I understand. And that is what for my commenter on my channel, that's what I'm trying to explain to them. And I was like, you know what, send me an email and I'll reply to it. And because he's not understanding, he spent thousands and thousands of dollars on counselors for his daughter and trying to get her off of drugs. I don't even know what kind of drugs she's on, but he just continues to beat his head against the result. And I told him to quit beating his head against the wall because you're doing the same thing repetitively, expecting to change the result when she is not changing her subconscious thought.
Well, I mean, the first question would be, it's her journey, not his.
Right.
And does she want change?
Well, that's what he said. She's came to him numerous times, but she just can't seem to kick the habit. And she'll get clean for 90 days and then bam, right back to it. And that's because you're not changing a thought process. Everything, to unlock the mind through the subconscious thought, you have to have a process and go through each one of those things. You can't just pick up the dictionary and believe that everything in there is true.
Right.
You can't do it. That's the reason why it changes literally every single year.
Well, and not only that, but even like affirmations.
Right.
When you start doing affirmations at first, while you're reprogramming the blueprint of your belief systems, those affirmations are going to feel like a lie.
Right.
But over time, as you clear the different levels of the belief system underneath what you want the affirmation to actually represent, which is a different belief within your blueprint, that's the point of an affirmation, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Is it's a habitual practice
that
helps begin to validate a new belief that you want in place.
Changes the definition, right?
By changing the definition of a sentence or a definition statement that you have in existence. And at first, until that change happens, it's going to feel like a lie. You just kind of have to fake it till you make it, or you just do it habitually. And at some point, you do get to a place where you're like, oh, that epiphanal pivot point happens. And you're like, oh, okay, I get it. When that belief clears out of the way or rewrites and habit changes, then everything kind of like locks into place and
like
identity changes.
When we were having that conversation with our son that day, I asked him, I'm like, why is that called that way? What named that? Where did the name for this thing come from? And I've asked that to probably throughout the course of my life for hundreds of people. And nobody can ever tell you where the names come from. Like, why is a pencil a pencil? Why is a towel a towel? Why is it called towel? Who came up with that name? And what makes it right? Right. And so until you become a real student of your beliefs, you will continue to bump your head against the wall. And one of those beliefs that you'll understand is the exception of when you can be fundamentally sound and have abundance and happiness. And once you take that pivot point, like you just said, and you start looking at your beliefs and your definitions from a different perspective, that just because you heard it from somebody, a preacher told you, a teacher told you, your doctor told you, does not mean it is true for you.
That's right. That's the key. And so you have to do your own research. You have to do your own due diligence. Right. And you have to start asking yourself, does this feel right for me?
Correct.
Does this work for me? Does this temporarily hold the place until I figure it out on a more sound level?
Right.
Will this work for now?
Correct. And that's where...
Those are the questions that you ask yourself when you go along your journey, looking for that place of life feeling the way you want it to feel.
Right.
It's not that people are looking for purpose. It's that people are looking for a certain kind of feeling within themselves.
Right. I agree. And that was the conversation that I had with this guy. Is one thing he's got to understand one thing, is I do know this for sure. I've experienced it, that I think it was like 80% of people that are addicts are at a higher intelligence level. And the reason why they get caught up in drugs and make those decisions is because their intelligence level is above society level. And now they feel weird. They feel awkward. They feel
or they've
out of
been
place.
told that they're weird and
Right.
awkward and out of place.
And
And they
they
bought into that programming.
and they'll follow more than lead.
That's right.
Which is the difference between most of these people they label as geniuses, Einstein, those kind of things, is because they understood that they have the power to name things, to create things, inside themselves.
Yeah.
But when you have somebody that's at a higher intelligence level, and we have an education system that teaches everybody the same at different levels, and they don't know how to be educated properly.
Right.
And they're looking for an internal peace. And that's where, and then they end up getting caught up with lower intelligence people, blah, 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 doing stupid things.
Right.
When that kind of stuff happens, then, like I told him, you have to unlock the door and make sure she realizes that she is fine and normal.
Yeah.
All we have to do is show her how to learn life, because nobody ever taught her how to learn life.
Right.
And that's where
learn life from within herself.
From within herself, not from a textbook or from what somebody else says.
That's right.
We have to teach her to become her own teacher.
Right. No matter what that looks like to the outside world.
That's correct.
And then just not giving a shit, getting her to the point where, because right now what's happening with her is she's too worried about what the outside world thinks of her, because she's been given labels that created her identity.
Right.
Which is what we often do to each other.
We do it a lot.
Even as parents, we give identities to our children instead of letting them figure out and create their identity themselves.
Right.
And that can be extremely confusing, especially when we teach them that they must respect their elders and, because you're an adult figure and you're my guardian, you know the way of the land and this works, so I'm going to embrace that and I'm going to adopt it.
Right.
And then when you get to be an older adult coming into, 18, 19, where you get to go out and explore the world yourself, nobody stops and says, okay, now you own your identity, yourself, your perspective, yourself, and it is perfectly okay to upgrade that system by deciding what parts of the identity you want to keep, what parts of the beliefs you want to keep, which ones do you want to dissolve, which new ones do you want to put in place.
Right.
We just left the nest thinking, okay, because my parents said so or my guardian said so, this is what life looks like, and these are the things I have to do to be a functioning member of society. Yep. So then you're trained to care what other people think.
Right.
And instead of thinking for yourself, you're now functioning through your reality based on what somebody else thinks about you.
Right.
Whether you even know them well enough to take on what they think about you or not, which is highly illogical to me. Right. But it is the way that things happen. So then you could become so focused on what other people think rather than taking the opportunity to look within yourself and say, what do I think about myself?
Right.
Because if you've spent a life around thinking, I care about what other people think, and the majority of the people you were around were brought up in a negative world of being kind of pessimistic and judgmental, then you're not going to have a very good perspective or definition of yourself if you were around people that didn't have a very healthy perspective of you and you're listening to the crowd.
Right.
Then of course you're not going to have a very good definition of who you are.
Well, that in society teaches confusion because they blanket educate that emotions are this and this is this and this is this, and so humans learn to take everything as a blanket. And there are natural learnings that you naturally do. Like people know what it feels like to be upset and sad because their body produces a sad emotion, a sad energy, but they don't know how to understand what's the square root of pi. And so they don't know how to differentiate between what they've been taught. And that's one of the main parts of it, is people can't differentiate what they've been taught over the years to be what happens when you are sad, or what, because that internal feeling, they feel it. And so,
or what do I do with that emotion
what do I do
when
with
I
it?
am experiencing it?
That is correct.
Sadness is a very good one to bring up. Most of us have been taught, so let me take you down this pathway. As a small child, I can speak for myself. I was taught by these words. These words ring in my head. Shut up crying, or I'm going to give you something to cry about.
Right. Yep.
That was literally said to me by
Yep.
some of my caregivers. And I'm like, well, how much damn logical sense does that make?
And the other end of the spectrum is happening
Especially
now.
after I just got a spanking maybe for something.
Right. And
It
that's
physically
the spectrum.
hurt. It emotionally hurt. And so why am I not allowed to have the expression of the emotion and the feeling about it? And I'm now getting in trouble for having the emotion or the feeling about it.
That's correct.
And what we forget to remember too, as caregivers of a small, tiny being, is that they have energy and emotions. And if we don't give them space to express that, even if it is in the middle of the grocery store pitching a fit, and we teach them that it's okay to have the emotion and understand that they are navigating a very big energy, and they're not always going to know the perfect time and place to express that. But over time and with growing up, they'll begin to learn that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you don't give them the space to experience the emotion, stop crying. You're
Right.
going to mess up your makeup. Then that's where you go from there.
And that's where society is.
Crying is ugly. Hide your face.
Mhm.
Don't cry in public. Don't ruin your makeup.
Don't embarrass me. That's a
Don't
big thing.
embarrass me in public. Stop crying.
Mhm.
Or for the male gender, crying represents weakness.
Mhm.
Never let them see you cry.
Right.
And things like that. That's what you're taught. So not being able to embrace the emotion, just that factor by itself, and boxing up all of those very powerful, very heavy emotions and not letting them exist in your being, and not knowing how to process them, not knowing how to navigate them or cope with them. People who are addicted to chemical, be it legal or illegal, are looking for a coping mechanism towards these emotions that they've never been given permission to experience fully, and they don't know how.
And they're not looking at the definitions either.
Right.
Yep.
And but the thing is, that box of emotion no longer will stay shut.
Right.
It gets full, and it's trying to explode out in what they've been taught are improper ways or improper places. And so they seek the chemical to numb
Agreed.
the emotion.
Agreed.
And so the first place is to give each individual permission to experience the emotions, whether they're from childhood or mid-adult or adulthood or whatever. When we can start having people feel safe to experience the emotions. And so start paying attention to this. I put you to the challenge. When somebody is crying out in public, the first thing they do is hide their face.
Well, yeah, because they're embarrassed. Because that's what they've been taught.
Not only because they're embarrassed, but because of some sort of programming that it's not okay to cry.
Well, and that's bringing it back to
Even
the exact.
some people who smile.
Right. And that's the programming that society has taught people. And that's why we have the bastardized belief systems of people that are doing things and trying to live life because they haven't been taught to become a student of their own life.
Did you just say bastard?
I did. I said bastardized, actually.
Is that a word that's allowed?
Yeah, that's an okay word.
It's a funny word to me.
Yeah. But so when people go through their life being roboted into not thinking for themselves, this is where we end up with addiction. We end up with with mental health, And then nowadays, the society is in a pendulum. We went from hindering little boys from crying to making chivalry go away, and that's a natural instinct for men. But I'm not saying women's right did anything wrong. I don't want anybody to think that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is now we have been textbooking the same people, the same kids, and we have not evoluted. The educational system has not changed in years. That's one of the worst things that we have in this country. And it's time for the education levels to change, because what happens when you have like this person's daughter he's talking about is she went from having straight A's all the way, like him and I talked, went through having straight A's to having a college, multiple colleges, to looking at her, to going to one party after high school and changing her entire life.
Well, yeah, because that one party she probably dabbled in
because she wanted to fit in.
Party behavior, because she wanted to fit in. She finally wanted to feel like she was part of some group.
Right.
Without any defining characteristics.
Right.
This group of people is going to take me exactly like I am. But the fine print is I got to do what they're doing.
Right. Yep.
So that means I'm going to get on this, what did they used to call it? Pharma punch bowl. And I'm going to take this shit. And then unfortunately what happens is you take the substance and you find that it numbs the feeling.
Yep. And now they're addicted.
It numbs the emotion. So I found a loophole, and by being on this chemical, I no longer have to feel shitty inside myself.
Right. You know, throughout the course,
that's what creates the addiction.
Throughout the course of the years ago, I'd helped a few people come off drugs and clear their addiction. And the very first thing we touch about is emotions.
Yeah.
And the second thing we talk about is understanding definitions.
I think the third thing is what's your identity?
Right. That's
what identity are you hanging on to?
Well, that's what my coaching back then, and you know, back then I wasn't even a coach. I was just helping people.
Yeah.
And making them understand that their identity is not who they are now. Their identity is who they're wanting to be, but they're not getting there. And so and how you do that is this, and this. You have to unlock your mind. You have to do that through accepting your emotions, quit labeling yourself, and let's talk through each definition of why you're feeling certain ways. Let's learn how to use your emotions and put good, proper definitions in place.
Right.
And then you can stop. Like we tried to help one, and we got a long ways with him, but you and I together.
Yeah.
But the reality is that they were never taught how to use their higher intelligence level for good, because they were never taught that.
Well, that's because it was never acknowledged.
Right.
It was never acknowledged that it even existed.
Right.
And so with that comes a certain level of being invisible is safe.
Right.
Not being seen is safe.
Yep.
And the whole construct gets tangled up in a lot of things.
Right. You know, I was lucky. I had a teacher named Miss Velvet Ward. If you're still out there, Miss Velvet, I appreciate what you did for me. When I went to 6th grade, they were trying to put me in a special needs math course. And so we sat down. She's like, I've been working with him for a couple of months now. What? No. And I'll show you why. And she went over because she taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math.
Yeah.
You know, algebra, pre-algebra, calculus, the whole shebang.
Right.
And she went over to her 8th grade review test for the semester we were about to come into, the first 9 weeks test. And she gave me the test that I haven't even known anything about. Yeah. Which is 100 questions. Mm-hmm. Had the 3 people that were standing in her classroom just sit here and wait. 15 minutes later, I completed all of the questions, 100% correct, and I had never been taught about it. And she goes, you think he's special needs?
Yeah, just in a different way.
But still, they didn't do anything more to me. They just kept me in the same system.
Right.
Now, and because it comes to history, I suck at it. I hate history. I didn't enjoy that.
But even you saying that, you do enjoy history.
I loved learning about people, the history of people.
Well, but that's because history represents something completely different for you.
Well, probably.
The part about history is that you don't like the way history has been written,
I can tell you why I didn't like it.
and the way that it has been fed to the general populace, because it's not true and it's not accurate based on your
heritage.
people's
Well, that, and it was always
experience.
presented to me that my brother was smarter at history, and him and I didn't get along when we were kids, and so I hated history because he was good at it. That was another thing. But anyway, so like back to the topic, because we're getting pushed on time. The thing I want everybody to understand, that this conversation that we're having right now is about becoming a student of your life. Don't become a stereotypical person that's created out of a textbook, because you'll find that life becomes much easier when you create your own definitions. Because
I mean, it's not just a student of your life. Become a student of yourself.
right, yeah, that's what their life. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Because that's two different
I agree.
things. I mean, if you're studying your life and not really ever looking at the common denominator of that life, that existence, which is you, and learning about yourself internally, what makes you you, what is your identity, and what is it constructed of, and are they healthy components, then your life is really not going to look any different.
I like yo-yos.
Boing, 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 boing.
You said yo-yo. Oh no, you said you. My bad. Sorry.
I said you.
You said you. You had a comma in there. I just removed the comma
Oh, in your head.
in my head. I love yo-yos.
So essentially what we're saying, or what I'm saying, is what is your identity and what's it constructed of? Is it constructed of healthy characters and healthy components? What is your identity?
You know,
Explore
and I think that the thing that I want to communicate out there to people is taking the safe route is the safe route.
Is it route or route?
I don't know. I believe that's where you come from. The safe route. If you take the safe route, you're going to always take the safe route.
Because if you take the safe route, then carrots are really safe.
Because the normal person will always take the safe route, but then sit and want their life to change. But yet they're taking the safe route. They're not making their own definitions. They're not cutting their own path. You know, like you and I have been talking about this. We made this commitment to ourselves that we're gonna cut our own. We're gonna blaze our own trail in life, and that we have made that promise to one another, and we will continue to do that because it makes you think outside the box.
Right. Well, I mean, we've come to a place where we've defined that as the norm, and there's a certain level of comfort in doing that now because that's how we live our life.
That's right.
But it's also how we lived our life prior to meeting each other.
Correct. Mine was not as long as yours, but
being as unnormal and as weird as I possibly can that's my identity, and I embrace it.
Yep. And understand that just because it's in a textbook, it's in a dictionary, it's in an encyclopedia, does not mean it applies to you.
Right. And just because it's part of a 1% chance that it will happen doesn't mean it can't apply to you.
Right.
The beauty of this is that you get to recreate your identity every step
day
of the way.
Yep.
Every single day. You get to get up and you get to decide who it is you want to be.
Right.
And create that character, that persona. You get to create that.
Right.
At any given point.
I agree.
You can change directions. You
100%.
can change clothes. You
100%.
can change hairstyles. Literally change every aspect of the character that you were being.
Right.
If you choose to want to do that.
Correct. That is correct. Well, great podcast. I think that went well.
There you have it.
Do you feel complete?
Who do you want to be today? What's your identity?
I'm going to be whoever the hell I want to be.
Right. I'm going to be a marshmallow.
Well, today I'm going to be a accountant. I'm going to be a marketing coordinator. I'm going to be a public figure. I got many things I'm going to be today.
I'm undecided today.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, hey, anyway, guys, here's the update. LucidiumWorld.com. We're close to beta. Go check us out for the phone app at www.lucidiumworld.com. And our website is www.themerckcenters.org. And if you've been listening to us, you know where that is. If not, all you got to do is look up Dr. Jenny Emery, and she'll pop up #1 on Google. And you can check out her blog at blogger.com, and it's on Blogspot as well. And also our blogs are on our website as well.
Yeah, we've got 2 different types of blogs going. The blogger
you got Dr.
one,
Jenny's crazy one that's way out there.
The blogger one is more of a rabbit hole, bring your carrot sandwich to the edge and back with Dr. Jenny.
Yep.
I take those concepts that make you ponder.
Correct. And hey, don't forget to look us up. We are speaking in Ozark Research Institute for their Power of Thought School on April 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Yeah.
We'll be in Fayetteville, Arkansas, speaking there. Mm-hmm. And I believe after that, we're going to be going to the Oklahoma City one. I don't know. We'll see. But we're working on that now. And maybe we are definitely going to hit a few expos while we're out.
Yeah.
And anyway, we appreciate you all listening. And I really, truly hope that you have an awesome day.
Love ya.